They said she can't win on clay. She beat Grabber in straight sets. She went 6 points from dethroning Ostapenko. She earned her way into the Stuttgart main draw. And now the tennis gods have delivered the most poetically loaded first-round draw in the entire 2026 clay season. Stop everything. Phone down, volume up, airplane mode on. Because what the Porsche Tennis Grand Prix just produced in its draw ceremony is not a tennis match. It is a cultural event. It is a generational collision. It is the kind of matchup that screenwriters would reject for being too dramatic, too loaded with narrative symmetry, too impossibly perfect to be real. But it is real, and it happens on Monday, April 13th at the Porsche Arena in Stuttgart, Germany, on indoor clay. Alexandra Eala versus Leylah Fernandez, the Philippines versus Canada. Filipino blood on both sides of the net. Left hand versus left hand. The homegrown Filipino warrior forged at the Rafael Nadal Academy against the Filipino-Canadian prodigy who stormed to the US Open final at 18 years old. Two women with roots tracing back to the same archipelago, separated by 21 ranking spots, 0 previous head-to-head meetings, and an ocean of contrasting career trajectories, about to collide on European red clay in one of the most prestigious indoor tournaments in the world. Let me tell you who Leylah Fernandez is, because if you underestimate this woman for even 1 second, you have already made a fatal tactical error. Leylah Fernandez is not just another opponent on the draw sheet, she is a 5-time WTA champion. 5 titles, let that number register. Eala has 0. Fernandez won Monterrey, she won Monterrey again, she won Hong Kong, she won Washington, D.C., a WTA 500 title, she won Osaka. She has been to places on the WTA Tour that Eala is still dreaming about reaching. She has stood in the spotlight of a US Open final at Flushing Meadows in 2021 at the age of 18, defeating Naomi Osaka, Angelique Kerber, Alina Svitolina, and Aryna Sabalenka in consecutive rounds before falling to Emma Raducanu in the championship match. That is not a resume. That is a war journal. That is the biography of a player who knows what it feels like to stand on the biggest stage in tennis and trade blows with the absolute elite. Her career high ranking is world number 13. She has reached a Grand Slam final. She has won titles on multiple surfaces. She is currently ranked number 25 in the world, 21 spots above Eala. She is coached by her father, Jorge Fernandez, who has been in her corner since the beginning, building her game from the ground up with a tactical philosophy rooted in aggression, variety, and an almost supernatural ability to raise her level when the moment demands it. She speaks 3 languages fluently. She won the Roland Garros junior title in 2019, becoming the first Canadian to win a junior Grand Slam since Eugenie Bouchard, and her mother is Filipino-Canadian. That last detail is what transforms this match from a compelling first-round draw into a cultural earthquake. Leylah Fernandez has Filipino blood. She has spoken publicly about her mixed heritage, identifying as both Filipino and Latina. Her mother, Irene, carries the Filipino lineage that connects Fernandez to the same 115 million people who stand behind Alexandra Eala, and that creates a dynamic that the tennis world has never seen before. 2 players with Filipino roots facing each other on the WTA Tour for the first time in history, on indoor clay in Germany, with a spot against 5th seed Jasmine Paolini waiting in the round of 16. The Eala army does not boo opponents. The Eala army does not disrespect competitors. But the Eala army also does not waver in its loyalty. And on Monday, the loyalty belongs to Alexandra Eala. Now let me decode the tactical chess match that is about to unfold, because this is where the matchup becomes absolutely fascinating from a technical standpoint. Both players are left-handed. Both. In professional tennis, left-handers are a rare species. They make up roughly 10% of the tour. When 2 left-handers face each other, the entire geometry of the court flips. The patterns that both players use to destabilize right-handed opponents suddenly become neutralized. The wide serve to the ad court that normally pulls righties off the court now curves into the Fernandez forehand. The cross-court forehand that normally attacks the opponent's backhand now finds the opponent's forehand instead. Every single tactical playbook that both players have built their games around has to be recalibrated in real time. This is not just a tennis match, it is a mirror match. A chess game where both players are using the same colored pieces. And that mirror creates an extraordinary test for Eala, because Fernandez is, in many ways, a preview of what Eala could become in 2 or 3 years. Fernandez is 23, Eala is 20. Fernandez has 5 titles. Eala has 0. Fernandez has been to a Grand Slam final. Eala has never been past the first round of a major. Fernandez has won over 300 career matches. Eala has won just over 200. The experience gap is real, and it is significant. But the trajectory gap tells a completely different story. Fernandez's 2026 season has been brutal. 4 wins and 9 losses heading into Stuttgart. A record of 4-9 is not the form line of a player operating at full capacity. It is the record of a player searching for answers, fighting to recapture the magic that once made her a top 15 player and a Grand Slam finalist. She has been knocked out in early rounds across Brisbane, Adelaide, the Australian Open, Abu Dhabi, Doha, Dubai, Indian Wells, and Miami. The confidence that once powered her through 5-set wars against Osaka and Sabalenka at Flushing Meadows is flickering, not extinguished, but flickering. Meanwhile, Eala walks into Stuttgart with 15 wins and 9 losses, a 15-9 record that includes a semifinal in Auckland, quarterfinals in Abu Dhabi and Dubai, 4th-round finishes at Indian Wells and Miami, a career-high ranking of world number 29, victories over Donna Vekic, Jasmine Paolini, Diana Yastremska, and a competitive 2-set loss to Ostapenko on clay that was decided by 6 total points. The momentum belongs to Eala. The form belongs to Eala. The hunger, that raw, unquenchable, almost desperate hunger to win a maiden WTA title, belongs to Eala. And in tennis, hunger is a weapon that talent alone cannot defend against. But talent is exactly what makes Fernandez so dangerous, even in poor form. Her forehand is a precision instrument that can change direction mid-swing. Her backhand generates angles that geometry textbooks would struggle to diagram. Her movement, at 5'6", is compact, explosive, and relentless. She covers the court like a player 4 inches taller because her footwork is so efficient that she seems to teleport between shots. And her competitive fire, the same fire that drove her through the 2021 US Open draw, the same fire that produced some of the most iconic fist pumps and screams the sport has witnessed in the last decade, can ignite at any moment. A player like Fernandez does not need form, she needs a spark. One early break, one emotional crowd reaction, one forehand winner that lands on the line, and suddenly the 4-win, 9-loss record evaporates and the Grand Slam finalist appears. That is why Eala must approach this match with the same intensity she brought to the Ostapenko match in Linz. Not the result, but the approach. The 88% first serve accuracy, the clinical breakpoint conversion, the tactical discipline that kept her within striking distance of a former French Open champion on clay. If Eala brings that level to the Porsche Arena on Monday, Fernandez's current form will not be enough to withstand the pressure. And the second serve, the lesson from Linz has to be implemented here. That 0% second serve win rate against Ostapenko was the difference between victory and defeat. Against Fernandez, who is an aggressive returner with exceptional timing, a weak second serve will be punished with the same ruthlessness. The Rafael Nadal Academy has had nearly a week to work on this exact problem. The spin rate, the placement, the disguise, the ability to keep the second serve out of the middle of the box where Fernandez can load up and attack. If Eala walks onto the court on Monday with even a marginal improvement on second serve, the tactical equation tilts dramatically in her favor. The indoor clay surface adds another layer of complexity. Stuttgart's Porsche Arena plays on indoor clay, which behaves differently from the outdoor clay in Linz. The ball bounces more consistently without wind interference. The lighting is controlled. The court speed is slightly faster than traditional outdoor clay because the surface is managed to precise specifications. For Eala, who has now played 2 competitive clay matches in Linz, the indoor environment could actually be an advantage. The consistency of the bounce eliminates one variable. The controlled conditions allow her to time her shots with greater precision, and the faster court speed favors her aggressive return game, which won 36.7% of return games across the 2026 season. For Fernandez, who played her most recent tournament on the green clay of Charleston before arriving in Stuttgart, the indoor surface presents its own adjustment challenge. She won one match in Charleston, defeating Polina Kudermetova before exiting. Her clay court record in 2026 stands at 1-1. Not extensive enough to suggest she has found her rhythm on the surface, not disastrous enough to suggest she cannot find it. It is a coin flip, and coin flips in first-round matches at WTA 500 events are exactly the kind of high-variance situations where the Eala army thrives. Let me paint the picture of what sits beyond this match because the draw is dripping with narrative potential. The winner of Eala versus Fernandez faces 5th seed Jasmine Paolini, the Italian, the 2024 French Open finalist. The player Eala dismantled 6-1, 7-6 in Dubai earlier this year in one of the most dominant performances of her entire season. If Eala beats Fernandez and then beats Paolini, she faces either top seed Elena Rybakina or Diana Schneider in the quarterfinals. And the semi-final projection features Iga Swiatek, who now has Francisco Roig in her coaching corner, the former Nadal coach, creating a connection between Eala's training base and Swiatek's new tactical direction that the media has not even begun to explore. This draw is not a bracket. It is a screenplay, and the opening scene is Eala versus Fernandez on indoor clay in the Porsche Arena, with a brand new Porsche 911 Carrera S Cabriolet sitting courtside waiting for the woman who survives 5 rounds of the most competitive WTA 500 field of the season. But before any of that matters, Monday has to happen. The first serve has to fly. The first rally has to unfold. 2 left-handed athletes with Filipino heritage have to step onto opposite sides of the net and compete for something bigger than a spot in the second round. They are competing for momentum, they are competing for ranking points, they are competing for confidence heading into Madrid and the French Open, and in Eala's case, she is competing for the continuation of a clay court narrative that started with a straight-set win over Grabber, evolved through a heartbreaking 6-point loss to Ostapenko, and now enters its 3rd chapter against a former Grand Slam finalist in the most iconic indoor clay venue on the WTA Tour. The Eala army knows what to do. Full mobilization. Every soldier activated. Share this video immediately. Tag every Filipino tennis account. Tag every Canadian tennis account. Let the world know that the most culturally significant first-round match of the entire clay season is happening on Monday at the Porsche Arena. Flood the comments with your prediction. Tell me how Eala should approach the left versus left geometry. Tell me what serve patterns work against a left-handed returner with Fernandez's timing. Tell me how she should manage her second serve after the Linz lesson. I want the comments section to transform into a tactical laboratory. Drop the Philippine flag. Drop the fire. Tell the algorithm that when the Stuttgart Open drew Eala against Fernandez, they did not just create a tennis match, they ignited a global conversation about heritage, identity, and the unstoppable rise of Filipino tennis on the world stage. 2 left hands, 2 Filipino hearts, 1 court, 1 winner, and the Porsche Arena has no idea what is about to hit it. And let me leave you with this thought, because it is the kind of thought that separates the Eala army from every other fanbase in professional sports. The establishment wants to frame this match as a mismatch. World number 25 versus world number 46. 5 titles versus 0. Grand Slam finalist versus Grand Slam first-round exit. On paper, the hierarchy is clear. On paper, Fernandez is the favorite. Every prediction model, every algorithm, every bookmaker is leaning toward the Canadian. Demers gives Fernandez a 56% win probability. The rankings say she should win. The title count says she should win. But paper does not play tennis. Paper does not account for the trajectory of a player who has won 15 matches in 2026 against an opponent who has won 4. Paper does not measure the fire in the eyes of a 20-year-old who came within 6 points of beating a Grand Slam champion on clay 6 days ago and immediately walked into another tournament instead of retreating to lick her wounds. Paper does not quantify what it means to train at the Rafael Nadal Academy every single day, absorbing the mentality of the greatest competitor the sport has ever produced, learning to treat every match as a final and every point as a battle for survival. And paper certainly does not account for what happens when 115 million Filipinos lock into a live stream simultaneously and channel their collective energy into one single athlete standing on a clay court in Stuttgart, Germany. Fernandez knows pressure. She performed under the brightest lights at the 2021 US Open and nearly won the whole thing at 18. But she has never faced pressure from the Eala army. She has never experienced what it feels like to have an entire nation willing her opponent forward with every point. She has never walked onto a court knowing that the person across the net carries a movement, not just a ranking, and that movement does not sleep, does not rest, and does not accept defeat as anything other than a temporary setback on the road to something historic. Eala's clay court record entering Stuttgart is 15-22 for her career, but in 2026 it is 1-1. One win over a clay specialist, one competitive loss to a Grand Slam champion. The sample size is small, but the trajectory is screaming upward. And if she adds a win over a five-time WTA champion and former Grand Slam finalist on indoor clay, the narrative does not just shift, it detonates. It explodes into 1,000 pieces and reforms into something entirely new. Something the establishment has been dreading since the moment Eala first set foot on the practice courts of the Rafael Nadal Academy as a teenager. The realization that Alexandra Eala is not a surface-specific player. She is a force of nature that adapts, evolves, and conquers regardless of the dirt beneath her shoes. Monday, April 13th, Porsche Arena. Indoor clay, the left-handed mirror match. The Filipino Heritage Clash, the most loaded first-round draw in the 2026 clay season.